Boston Borough Council are a small rural district in Lincolnshire, and like many local authorities we're having to deal with some significant financial changes, and elected members have been very keen to ensure that we can still deliver our services to the local community. One of the key strands of that has been looking to work differently, and this has involved us having a look at our IT provision and largely and more recently the way we deliver telephone services to our customers. A key strand of this has been very much looking towards external provision and cloud delivered solutions, and we've been working with an organisation called Fern, who have been very helpful in delivering what we'd call not only a cost-effective solution to the borough's residents, but also increasing the functionality and the customer experience with the borough. We're delivered this project about 6 months ago now, and we're already reaping great rewards and great levels of customer satisfaction.
Boston had a number of reasons to look at telephony as part of its ongoing ICT improvement plan. There was lots of evidence and anecdotal reports from the public about slow response times and extended waiting times calling into the council. There'd been a relatively near miss with East Coast flooding in December of 2014, and where the water got almost to the door of the server room, which would have been catastrophic in terms of having to replace an on-site piece of equipment. The ongoing financial challenges to local government, obviously we're looking to deliver much more with ever-decreasing resources, and so there was almost a perfect storm of reasons and rationale to look at the marketplace in terms of what was available, in terms of how technology had changed. Boston's got a track record of successful open source deployments, and that led to some research on the internet, led me to Fern's website, and an initial look at some of the video studies that were available there in terms of whether hosted telephony really was a viable proposition for a small borough council. That quickly led to a proof of concept where we were closing a remote site, doing a relocation, and we deployed a small number of IP handsets basically to implement a very small 4-seat contact centre to really prove the technology would work. Local government in general, and certainly in Lincolnshire, has made a big investment in the move over to create the East Midlands public sector network. So we've got high-speed links to the internet, and generally an impression that we've now got the infrastructure to start accessing cloud services and to deploy them successfully. So the proof of concept with the closure of our remote depot then allowed us to go into a number of months of handling phone calls through the Fern hosted platform, put them into a contact centre environment, look at the improved call reporting statistics that we didn't previously have with the old analogue switch, and really to build some confidence within the organisation, and especially in the customer services team, as to how this might scale up across the wider organisation. And so during the summer, customers dialed the same old number they'd dialed before, received a far better response. The IT guys were able to see the traffic and manage the IP traffic for voice over the network for the first time in a relatively low-key environment. And this all helped to build confidence across the organisation in potentially scaling IP telephony out across the wider user base. When we then looked at the financials, then the business case was absolutely compelling, with the expensive costs of ISDN channels into the organisation, having a dedicated analogue switch downstairs, the on-site management and maintenance of such a system. When we looked at the financial case for moving to hosted telephony, then we quickly saw that there was approaching 50% savings to be had by improving the technology offering that we make to our users. So whilst the implementation was intended very much to replicate the old world in that customers would notice no difference, the internal workings and the ability to adapt to the new level of information that we've got has really helped to transform the customer experience. And within only a couple of weeks, our partner organisations were openly communicating and congratulating internal teams for an absolute transformation in their abilities to deliver services. And that was predominantly due to a new level of information that our officers had got. Queue times, call numbers, the peaks and troughs of demand quickly enabled us to allocate resources, based on traffic patterns that we really didn't have any evidence for in the past.
Some of the specific benefits we've seen which have helped us in both the service we offer and also in the financial benefits to the borough have included matters such as the queue handling and how we can manage our staff time better and deal with the demand that comes in through the community. That's been very helpful. We've also benefited immensely through the performance reporting and the functionality that's come along with the system, which was something we could have only dreamed of with our own system that we had in place at the time.
So when we looked at the financial case for change, the first thing we looked at was the costs relating to the existing system. So with an ISDN 30 line rental to pay for, with the cost of an on-site switching infrastructure, there were some pretty significant costs there. And then looking at the actual value of calls that were being made by council employees outbound and the numbers of calls coming inbound, then there was clearly a massive imbalance between the cost of ownership with on-site infrastructure versus the cost of the calls that were being made. And when that was explained to senior managers, then that really didn't sit right in terms of the overall priorities of what the council was here to achieve, and was a catalyst really then to look at a revenue-based model for our communication infrastructure. Simply in terms of aligning the resources that we have available with the changing state of local government, the uncertainty in terms of what local government might look like going forward, both in terms of numbers of employees and the activities that we might undertake, then having a more flexible approach to the way that we communicate with the outside world and are able to receive communication from the outside world really was another reason to look into an external hosted offering. When we're looking at the options and opportunities through the replacement project, what became quickly apparent was that our elected members and customer services manager were very keen that customer service standards were enhanced, at the very least maintained through the exercise. This wasn't simply to be a cost-cutting exercise. So with the range of services that local government provides and the differing needs across user departments, it was essential that the replacement service that we procured was able to accommodate some very different user needs. What we were looking to achieve effectively was to deliver much more for much less financially.
And I suppose the other thing that I must mention is the speed in which we've been able to move from an old system to a new solution by not having to concern ourselves with the detail of the infrastructure, but just to move into a pay-as-you-go type service, which has all been fantastic.
We've now adopted a model where specific user requirements can be met on a per monthly basis. We can turn facilities on and off with no huge entry costs for on-site infrastructure, and the council really has been able to deliver much better for much less.